Stop! I can already see the comments raging with uncontrollable flames.
MCU Spider-Man is not a proper Spider-Man, and Spider-Man Homecoming is not a good Spider-Man movie, bitch. You're not a Spider-Man fan if you like Tom Holland. Raimi forever.
Spider-Man Homecoming is called Spider-Man Homecoming. You probably knew that. Well, you've seen it. But what does it mean to have the title Spider-Man? That's a heavy question for a character that's had 50 plus years of stories, development, movies, shows, games, adaptations, legacy, you name it! That's a lot to unpack from one question. I've already covered the topic of what it means to wear the mask of Spider-Man in different videos. Some people agree with me, some people don't. I'm gonna contradict myself a little bit here. As much as anyone can be Spider-Man, there are still a set of guidelines to establish yourself when it comes to being Spider-Man. For example, you can't just grow up in World War II, join the army, fight Hydra, question the morality of your own country, and use a shield and then call yourself Spider-Man as long as you're wearing the mask. No, because you'd be Captain America, not Spider-Man. For example, each Spider-Man can be different, but there's one thing that each of them follows very closely, and that is the one glorious line. The line I loved before I even liked reading. That's it. With great power comes great responsibility. It's narrated in the comics, it's said by Uncle Ben in the Raimi movies, it's also loosely adapted by Uncle Ben in the TASM movies, and it's iterated by Peter in Civil War.
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
And that's what today's video is about. Spider-Man Homecoming is a good Spider-Man movie. It's far from the worst, but it's certainly not the greatest either. But it's good. It uses the ideology of that one line in Civil War and runs with it. It shows us that when in the heat of the moment, Peter never gives up. He leaves Liz at the dance after letting her down several times throughout the movie, consistently disappointing her to go and stop her dad, Adrian Toomes. Even when his new mentor tells him not to. The Tony Stark, arguably the most influential and most powerful person on the planet, tells him not to. He still does it. That's Spider-Man. That is so Spider-Man, and there is no way you can tell me that isn't. That's what Spider-Man is. Peter knew it was his responsibility to stop Vulture, and that's exactly what he did. All the odds stacked up against him, but he still did it. Spider-Man Homecoming might not be the best shot Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man Homecoming may not be the best written Spider-Man movie. Spider-Man Homecoming might have high school teen CW drama comedy. Spider-Man Homecoming might shove Peter under the shadow of Tony Stark. But Spider-Man Homecoming shows us why Peter Parker is Spider-Man. It shows us why it's not a need or a want, but a responsibility. The trapped under the rubble scene is one of the greatest Spider-Man scenes, and here's why. Do you know why Peter is here? Serious question. I want you to think about that right now. You're lying down, you're sitting at a desk, you're on the toilet, whatever you're doing, think about that question. Why is Peter stuck under the rubble? If you said it was because after him and his family and friends being threatened and after disappointing the girl he loves for the god knows what time to go and fight her dad, because he knows he's doing the right thing even though the richest guy on the planet who also happens to be your mentor told you not to, yet he still does it, then you'd be right. It was these turn of events that couldn't be more Spider-Man if you tried. And that led to...
Oh, come on, Spider-Man!
Come on, Spider-Man. Because that is Spider-Man. Everything I just described to you was and is what Spider-Man stands for. Tony Stark is in this movie, yes. Peter lives under Tony's shadow, yes. But isn't that the point of the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man? Emphasis on neighborhood. The point is that he's not Iron Man or Captain America. As much as he looks up to those people in the comics, he still lives under their shadow. He always has. Who takes the spotlight in the Marvel Universe? Not Spider-Man. It's the Avengers, it's the X-Men, it's the Fantastic Four, but it's certainly not Spider-Man. Spider-Man may be the most popular hero and the most engaging, but in the universe, he's not. And that's why he lives under Tony's shadow. He's a kid who wants to do what's right, and he does that by looking up to the only man he can, Tony Stark. Uncle Ben clearly influenced this version of Spidey, and that's clear from when Tony met Peter in Civil War. But Tony elevates this in Homecoming, and Spider-Man challenges him back. He may be under Tony, but he defies him. He starts to see where Tony's weaknesses lie. When Tony tells Peter not to go after the Vulture, what does he do? Now say it with me. He goes after the Vulture. This is what separates Peter from Tony. This is why Peter Parker is Spider-Man and not Iron Man Jr. Because when Tony says he wanted Peter to be better, well, he is. Peter Parker is being Peter Parker in these moments, not Tony Stark. Peter's morality can't help it. He has to help when he can. Now, all of this may not be surface level stuff. Maybe you don't realize it at first because, I will admit, Homecoming isn't perfect. From the surface, it looks like a casual high school comedy featuring Spider-Man, and it's all happy-go-lucky with characters that feel like they're from a Disney Channel movie. But there's a deeper story here. There's a deeper, overarching meaning of this narrative of responsibility. My friend Ray over at Slightly Insulting, by the way, you should go subscribe, awesome channel, said it the best. My favorite thing about Tom's Spidey is they make you dig for his emotional stuff. They give you hints, but then they make you dig for it. Unlike Raimi and LewisFilms, where they give it to you straight up, like, this is what he's feeling type stuff, but with the MCU Spidey, I have to level with him and understand what he's going through. I really love that. Maybe because I'm a kid, I level more with Tom's Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming was released at the peak of my high school career, and 3 years on, it reminds me of my high school days. But you've got to think to yourself, would you, at 15 years old, go after the Vulture still after Tony Stark, the Tony Stark, told you not to? You almost died a couple times in the first couple battles, and you had the chance to land the girl that you loved. Most people wouldn't. You know that's true, and you know that I know that's true. But do you know who would? Peter frickin' Parker would.
I'm sorry. You don't deserve this.
Also known as, that's right, Spider-Man.